Hi folks, Steve here again with another of my FreeCAD for Amateur videos. So what we have here is what I did to create extensions for my clarinet because of my hand injury, and you can see other videos on that. But I decided to make this video because it actually requires that we know something about Boolean operations, importing a image to create a template to work off of, and issues such as rotation. So you can see what we're going to do is we see this here, and here's two views of what we're going to build. Essentially, there's going to be at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different bodies. There's going to be a basic pad that fits over the key with 2 cutouts, a second pad on top to which the extension itself is attached. We're going to leave these 2 unattached so we can rotate this as we need. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. So here I am in the part design workbench, FreeCAD, up, plane flying overhead. Let it get past. Okay, and so what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and we're going to import the picture of the top part of the clarinet that we will use as our template. So we go here to import, and here's my picture here. This is actually the picture here that we're going to import. And it's a picture of the clarinet without the attachments on. So let's go ahead and get a top view, looking now straight down on the image. And the first thing we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to resize this image to the measurements that we have taken. So I measured the diameter of this pad here to be 17 millimeters. So how to resize this image to 17 millimeters? Well, we go over to the image, we right-click, change image, and you can see in the change image dialog box, there's a button that says calibrate, and make sure, of course, that we have keep aspect ratio checked. So now let's press the calibrate button. What the calibrate button then allows us to do is to select 2 points in a line and then resize it to those points. So let's go over here, and we know from measurement that this is 17 millimeters. So let's go ahead and click once and try to find the maximum dimensions it's going to be. Double click on that, because I think that's, well, no, maybe not. We can cancel, calibrate again. Let's see here. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay, and because it's 17 millimeters, you'll see it's highlighted. Type in 17 millimeters. And we will see over here this all change once I hit apply. Okay, so now this image is scaled in such a way as to let this be 17 millimeters. So now let's go ahead and rotate the image and center it on the pad we want to make. So let's click OK. Let's click on the image, go over to placement, go over to axis. We want to rotate this around the Z axis, which it's already marked. So let's go ahead and rotate it to the right 90 degrees. Well, there we go. It was minus 90. 90 would have done it the other way, but okay, we're at 90 degrees. Now let's go ahead and center this pad on our XYZ axis. We can do this a couple of ways by just altering some of the position numbers here, but another way to do it is simply to go over to Image, right-click, transform, and then move it physically. So we can kind of just slowly get to where we need it to be about by hand. There's no rocket science here because there's going to be inherent measurement errors anyway. Okay. And that looks to be pretty much centered, maybe a little on the high side. But how we're going to figure this out now is, remember that I said that this pad was in fact 17 millimeters. So at this point now, let's go ahead and make the first pad, which is going to attach here. So let's go ahead back to our model, and let's go ahead and create a body. And let's go ahead and rename this body to be base pad. Okay. Create a sketch. And the sketch is going to be looking straight down on the top, so it's the XY plane. And now let's go ahead and create the first pad. And we're simply going to make a circle here. So we're going to make a centered circle, which is why we moved the image to be in the center. Index to be coincident on the intersection point. Bring out, click, and then constrain it to be 17 millimeters. So it looks as if, in fact, maybe we didn't quite get the image exactly correct. But on the other hand, I will tell you up front that because we're going to 3D print these, there's inherent errors. Trust your original measurements, and remember, we are using this image only to create a reference point for how we want it to sit. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at 17 millimeters, and we've got a constrained sketch. We're going to close the constrained sketch, and we're going to click on the sketch, pat it, and let's make the pad 2 millimeters. It can be 3, but essentially I want the pad to actually sit down over the cup. It'll cup the key. So let's make it 2 millimeters. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second here. Go ahead and rotate it so we can see. Actually, I changed my mind. Let's make it 3 millimeters. Okay. No, I changed my mind again. 2 millimeters. Okay. So now we want this first pad to sit below, so it has a tight seal. So we're going to then go to the back side of the pad. Let's make the image go away for a second. Space bar. Click the underside of the pad, and we are going to now do a thickness on the inside of the pad for 1 millimeter. Now, doing this should actually encompass the key, and this will be on the outside of the key, because remember, we are doing our thickness outward. So this is 18 millimeters in diameter. The inside is 17 millimeters in diameter. Okay, let's go back to the model, bring back our picture. And the next thing we want to do is we want to create cutouts. So when this pad recesses or sits down over the keypad, there will be room for it to sit flush on the top. So we're going to cut a relief here, and we're going to cut a relief there. So the easiest way to do that, to cut these reliefs, is to actually use a Boolean operation with, in fact, cutting out squares. Okay, so doing it this way, let's go ahead and create a new part. And we'll call this part cutout 1. Create a sketch, once again in the XY plane. And let's create now, but we want to view section so we can actually see what we're doing. By taking off the view section, we can just look and see where we are. We're going to now create a cutout, essentially by drawing a square. So you can see what I've done here is I've created a cutout. We can go ahead and just to be complete, we should of course constrain this in height and width. And it looks like that should work. Well, maybe not. Well, here, let's see what distance we are from the X. So I click those two. Let's move it up a little bit. 4. Yeah, that looks like it'll work. But I better make this maybe a little bigger. Well, actually, let me show you some other way to do this here. Let's take away that one constraint and let's make it symmetrical. So to do that, we can click this. We can click this point. We can click the center line and create a symmetrical constraint. Okay? So let's make this a little bit bigger. Maybe make it 9 millimeters. And that should cover the cutout. Okay. We still don't have a completely constrained sketch. And what's not? It's that way. Okay, so now let's just go ahead and click this point, the distance from that, 5.5, and now we have a fully constrained sketch. Okay, close this out. And we can pad the sketch. Now remember that the lip for this cup is 1 millimeter. So all we really need to do is to pad that lip 1 millimeter. And if we just pad it as 1 millimeter, let's go ahead and remove the image by hitting the space bar. We can see where we're at. So now we want to go ahead and remove this cutout. Well, now how do we remove the cutout? This is where the Boolean operation comes in. Let's make the base pad the active body by double clicking it. Now it's the active body. Remember, we always have to work with active bodies. It's in bold, so it's the active body. let's select cutout, go to Boolean. We see that the cutout is selected. We cut it. We click OK. Now we have a Boolean where we have, oops, come on, Steve. See, we've now cut it out. See? Okay. So let's call, and so that's Boolean 1. Let's go ahead and bring the image back. Okay. Now let's create the second part, which is going to be that cutout. So create another body, rename it second body, second cutout. Let's create a sketch in the second cutout. Once again in the XY plane. Let's hit view section so we can see what we're doing. And we're going to go ahead and now create the second cutout the same way. Create a rectangle. And it's not quite centered, but it'll be close enough. Let's go ahead, and for the purposes of, let's go ahead and make this symmetrical. Click one point, click the other point, click the center line, make it symmetrical. We're just talking about now making it, getting a sketch that is fully constrained. Go ahead and make that, 6 millimeters. Make that distance to be, I don't know, 5.5 millimeters. Make the depth 6 millimeters. And I've got to now remember where our constraints are, where we are not constrained. Hello. There we go. Where are we not constrained? We're not constrained in the length. Okay, here we go. Length. Let's make it 7 millimeters. And it looks like we're covering the cutout pretty darn well. So we can close the sketch. Take out the image, select the sketch, pad the sketch again to 1 millimeter, and now we can see that we have where that is. And we do the same thing with the Boolean. We make sure the base pad is selected as the active body, select the second cutout, go to Boolean operations, cut it, okay. And now we can see that we have the cutouts. So let's go back to the top. Let's bring the picture back. And now we can ask ourselves, what does it look like? Well, let's look at it from the bottom. And it's kind of hard. It's a little bit harder to see here. Let's see. Trying to see if there's a way you can actually see what it looks like. By holding down, you can kind of see the outline. The other thing we can do is we can increase the transparency of this. Oh, there you go. So we can now see how the outline is, and these line up just fine. Okay. All right. Let's go back to the top view. So now we have the base pad, which will fit on the key with the cutouts. Now we're going to attach a pad on the top. Why are we doing a second pad? Because it's the second pad that's going to hold the finger extension, not the base pad. And that's because we want to be able to rotate the finger extension in a 360-degree circle. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So let's go ahead and create a new body and call this the top pad. Let's go ahead now, create a sketch, XY plane, and we know that this is 17 on the inside and 18, because remember we did the thickness outwards. So we should be able to draw a circle, find the concentric point, start the circle. But let's go ahead and view the section so we can see what we're doing. Constrain this to be now 18 millimeters. Close this. Pad the sketch. And let's pad the sketch 3 millimeters. But now, as we all know, the top pad is embedded because we built everything from the ground floor. Now, we didn't have to do it that way. We could have selected the top as the frame of reference. And actually, let's go ahead and I didn't do it that way because I would have built the sketch. If I had simply clicked the plane of the bottom pad and then built the sketch on that, I would not have a separate body to work with. And that's important from the perspective of being able to rotate it. So that's why I did a separate pad. But now we have to move the pad in the Z direction to stand proud but attached to the bottom pad. So how do we do that? Well, we can click the top pad. Let's go ahead and do a front view. You can see what's happening here where the bottom pad is embedded. We can click on the top pad. We can go to the position tab, and now we can go to the Z and simply start moving it up. So we move it up 2 millimeters. It looks like I didn't do that right. It looks like the sketch was 17 and not 18. Did I make a mistake there? Oh, that's because I didn't do my math right. It's 2 millimeters on a side, so it's not 18, it's 19. Sorry, folks, bad math. There we go. Okay, so now we've moved it up, and we can see, let's take the image away, and we can see that we now have elevated the pad with 2 bodies. Okay, well, I think that I'm going to stop this video, and I think I'm going to do it in 2 parts. So now I'm going to go ahead and sign off here, and then come back with part 2 and show how we then build the finger extension. Okay, folks, thanks.